It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rump.
Max Landis.
Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark, 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible. Older than one.
Yeah, well, you're half right.
What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Got one friend, is baby.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
Hour number 2 of the Sports Rush on a championship edition. It is your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6. I am Brett Rump along with Adam Lundy, and we've got you connected on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line at 260-447-8500. Coming up this hour, of course, we'll talk about Notre Dame, Ohio State, coming up tonight in Atlanta. One of those two teams will be crowned as the national champion of college football 2024. That will happen tonight, and it'll happen right here on our airwaves because we've got Notre Dame's coverage of the national championship game starting at 6:30. Just ahead of that, Fighting Irish Preview, a special edition with the Judge Phil Houck, America's foremost authority on Notre Dame football, Tim Priester. We've got Fighting Irish Preview from 6 to 6:30 right after the Sports Rush. So big night right here on the radio. And Pacers had a big night on Saturday. They defeated the Philadelphia 76ers 115-102, one of the hottest ball clubs in the entire National Basketball Association, as the Pacers, get this, got 18 points and what? 11 rebounds from Miles Turner. That don't happen much.
No, and he was, in fact, the team leading rebounder that game. So.
Yeah, Pascal Siakam gets 21 and 8, and Ben Mathurin with 8 points, 7 rebounds. But Pacers ended up winning this one 115-102 over the Joel Embiid-less and Paul George-less Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, you would have liked to see some better shooting from Tyrese Halliburton. He ended up being 1 of 7 from 3 points, so he had one of those games where he kind of struggled to find his shot, but he did still contribute 9 assists to the game. So good win for the Pacers, like you said.
Yep, Pacers outscored the Sixers in 3 of the 4 quarters. The only quarter that the Sixers outscored the Pacers was the second, 36-33, but the Pacers 28-21 in the third quarter and then put it away with a 26-22 advantage in the fourth quarter. Pacers now, as you just said in the update, off to Paris.
Yeah, they've landed in Paris. They're there already.
And of course, they get sent to France to take on one of the country's most dominant basketball players, Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
The overall number 1 pick in the NBA draft a couple of seasons ago, and he takes his San Antonio Spurs there. The only bright side is the Spurs haven't exactly been tearing up the league, and so hopefully the Pacers can take care of business, even though it's basically a homecoming of sorts for Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, and the thing is, the Spurs are not the best team by far, but they're one of those teams that's, right around 500 and out in the West that can take out any team if they're not careful.
Well,
so got to watch out.
And again, you're dealing with, foreign soil, having to adjust to a different time zone.
A lot of French fans.
And a lot of fans that are going to be cheering for Victor Wembanyama, who's going to want to put on a show because these games basically set up by the NBA just to showcase Wembanyama.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so the Pacers and the Spurs back-to-back. It starts Thursday with a 2 o'clock tip and then Saturday a 12 noon tip in Paris, France. 260-447-8500. Tonight the game, Notre Dame, Ohio State.
Oh, man.
I think one of the keys is, can Notre Dame break a few plays in the running game? And can they limit the amount of big plays for Ohio State in the Buckeyes passing game?
Yeah.
I know Travion Henderson's a great running back, but what really scares me about the Buckeyes is Egbuka and Smith and their abilities to make 20-yard passes, 80-yard pass plays, and so Notre Dame with that man-to-man defense, that's going to be tested. That's the issue, because Texas did a pretty good job making things difficult on Ohio State, but they played almost that Gus Bradley style defense where you sit back, keep everything in front of you, and try to avoid giving up the big play. For Notre Dame, they're going to put pressure on the receivers, probably play press coverage, probably try to slow down guys in getting into their routes, throw off the timing for Ohio State, try to force perhaps a mistake, create a turnover. And Notre Dame just needs to be able to run the football and hopefully with their running backs break a big play or two out of the running game. I don't see Notre Dame breaking big plays in the passing game. I think their biggest plays are probably going to come from Jeremiah Love and Riley Leonard on the ground. I don't know that they break a lot of big pass plays. Of course, who knows what to expect in this one? Ohio State's a 9-point favorite, which by itself surprises me, because how did Notre Dame not get any respect with wins over Indiana, Georgia, and Penn State?
Yeah, that's a good question right there.
I think this game, I think it could be close. Now, if Ohio State, if one of these two teams, let's put it this way, if one of these two teams wins in a blowout, I just don't see it being Notre Dame that wins big.
I do struggle to see a Notre Dame blowout in this game, absolutely.
If this game gets away, if Ohio State makes those plays and they force Notre Dame to play catch-up, that's not Notre Dame's best weapon.
No, it's not.
You see Notre Dame get down 2-3 scores early, and they start getting out of character and breaking away from the running game and trying to be an aerial attack. I think this one could be a blowout.
Right, and I really do think that the Notre Dame defense does need to do their best to force Will Howard into making some of those mistakes, whether it's turning the ball over or just getting some sacks on him. That'd be great too, because if not, then he is going to make those explosive plays that can put Ohio State ahead and Notre Dame out of the game.
260-447-8500. By the way, on Friday we started our weekend out in New Haven. Had a great basketball game.
Oh, yeah.
So much fun getting out of the SAC, seeing some of these NE8 teams, and boy, did they battle. That was a heck of a game between New Haven and Leo. Leo had the advantage at the half. Leo was trying to hold on in the third quarter, but man, is New Haven fast in transition. Woo. That Ezel. Oh, my goodness.
I knew when I heard that name.
Ezel the Gazelle.
I knew when I heard you say that name. I'm like, and I heard that he was fast. I'm like, he's probably going to call him a gazelle. And I'm like, I
got to have nicknames, yeah. Oh, he was just like lightning. He'd get the ball at one end, and he'd just be right down to the other end. And he just, on the dribble, go right past not only his own teammates, but the other team and get to the rim for a layup. It was unbelievable how quickly he took the ball coast to coast. Man. But New Haven was an exciting team to watch, and they get the win over Leo on Friday night. Got a chance to hang out at the New Haven Pizza Hut. Now, coming up this week, special edition high school basketball tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow night.
What a big one.
Yeah. 2
top 5 teams in the state of Indiana. A girls' clash between a couple of heavyweights. The Homestead Lady Spartans hosting the Warsaw Lady Tigers.
Oh,
You've probably got, 5 or 6 players minimum that are going to be playing D1 basketball in this one. Great game coming up tomorrow night at Spartan Arena, and we will be there to bring it to you. Also coming up tomorrow night, we've got the Mastodons Coaches Show to get the night started at 6 o'clock. We'll have John Kaufman, Maria Marcasano, Audra Emerson, one of the players for the Mastodons, is scheduled to join us this week. That's from 6 to 7 tomorrow right here at 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Well, we now know the final 4 teams in the NFL.
We do.
We know that on the AFC side, I think you get the game that most fans hope for.
Right. I mean, it's the matchup.
They've just had shootouts that are entertaining. You got 2 quarterbacks that are just fun to watch in the last 2 minutes with the ball in their hands, and you expect these two to play one-score games. That just seems to be the history. It should be fun between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we have another game that we will be forced to watch because we are NFL fans, and we will watch anything that has the kind of stakes that this game has with the NFC Championship with the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. Can Jaden Daniels be enough for Washington? What a performance they put on at number 1 seed Detroit, and what a disappointment for Lions.
Yeah.
You know, in Detroit on Saturday, here's what happened on Saturday in Detroit. Detroit Mercy Titans lost. Detroit Pistons lost. Detroit Red Wings lost. And then the Detroit Lions lost. There was no Sunday. There was no sun on Sunday in Detroit, Michigan, because everybody lost.
Wow. That's terrible.
Yeah, the entire city, just every fan of sports in the entire city of Detroit was a loser on Saturday.
But you said it, my man. Jaden Daniels, 22 of 31, 299 yards, 2 interceptions, quarterback rating of 91.8, and it's his rookie year, man.
He's the real deal. No question.
I'm interested to see about how much of a chance that Vegas and the line makers give him and the Commanders against the Eagles, because I feel like maybe even the Lions might have been a tougher test than the Eagles. Am I crazy for saying that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I tried.
You are.
I tried.
Any chance I can say you're crazy, I will go ahead. I'll go ahead and jump right in. Also, what else we got? Oh, big news today in the NFL, because the Bears and the Colts have both made hires. The Chicago Bears have found their head coach, Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson.
Former offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Speaking of Detroit.
Just saw them.
He was the brainchild behind that brilliant trick play. And the Bears said, that's the kind of offense we need to have here in Chicago.
I need Caleb Williams trick plays.
I need Caleb Williams to pitch it to somebody so another guy can pass it 30 yards downfield and get it intercepted. I don't want Caleb Williams to ruin his stats. Let somebody else get charged with the No, Ben Johnson is the coach of the Chicago Bears. And now there's some rumors and reports that Dennis Allen might be going with him as the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, there's a lot of reports out there on social media saying that he is the leading candidate to be the defensive coordinator there in Chicago.
And Lou Anarumo is going to be the Colts defensive coordinator. Definitely an entirely different scheme and personality than what the Colts had with what's his face?
He's already gone.
Yeah, Gus Bradley. But Lou Anarumo is going to be the new defensive coordinator under Shane Steichen and the Indianapolis Colts. That was released earlier today. All right, we got to get a break in because you know who we have next. Don Fischer. It's our 15 Minutes with Fish, presented by Hoopie Insurance Services. It comes up next right here on the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Welcome back to the Sports Rush, your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6. I am Brett Rump along with Adam Lundy. And coming up tonight, we've got wall-to-wall coverage of the national championship game. The Ohio State Buckeyes, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We're going to start it off right after the Sports Rush, straight up 6 o'clock. It is this week's National Championship edition of Fighting Irish Preview with the judge, Phil Houck, and America's foremost authority on Notre Dame football, Tim Priester. They'll get you their thoughts heading into the National Championship game. And then starting at 6:30, it is the Notre Dame Radio Network with Tony Simeone and company as Notre Dame gets set to take on Ohio State. That is the national championship game tonight from Atlanta. And we'll have all your radio coverage. And a big thanks to All-American Stores, of course, Shaw Law, and Midwest Box Breaks for bringing you tonight's national championship game on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. It's also going to be a big day coming up on Sunday because now we know who's going to play in the NFL Conference Championship games. And we're going to start it off in Philadelphia. The first game will be the Washington Commanders, Philadelphia Eagles. That will be a 2 o'clock pregame, 3 o'clock kickoff, and then that will be followed by the Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs. And the winners advance to the Super Bowl. Those games coming up right here on the radio through the Westwood One Network. We'll have them on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. And, of course, we are the home for the Super Bowl. Well, every week at this time, we get a chance to visit with the Hall of Famer, the legend, the radio voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, Don Fischer. It's our 15 Minutes with Fish, presented, as always, by Hoopy Insurance Services. Well, Don, just how do we begin with these Indiana Hoosiers? We saw the night and the day come by us this week as Indiana followed up their 25-point loss on the road, and just to be fair about it, they came back and lost by 25 on their home floor, so their home fans could enjoy just a outstanding performance. But
I don't think you want to say enjoy about the Illinois ball game.
Well, it gave them a chance to start a new cheer. How about that?
Yeah, well, they did. No question about that. There was a cheer out there, and it was not a good one. And that, of course, took place at halftime of the Illinois contest, in which Indiana gave up 60 points.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And although it's not unbelievable if it happened, so it happened. But 60 points and a half is just ridiculous, giving up those kinds of shooting opportunities for the opposing team, and that opposing team took advantage of it. And they didn't hit but 49% for the ball or in the contest in that sense. However, you look at what Illinois did to Indiana in the first part of that ball game, just took the game right out of their hands from the very beginning, and the Indiana ball club had no fight. They didn't come back in the first half. They were down 60-32 at halftime. They won the second half by 3 points, and believe it or not, 37-34. But that only convinced everybody that 25-point losses are part of Indiana's DNA right now. So this is a big problem, and I really believe that the game against Ohio State on Saturday was a game that Indiana had to win, somehow find a way to get it done. They were able to do that. It was not artistic either, because they were down 6 at halftime and 7 in the first half. Came back, took the lead, had a 10-point lead with about 5.5 or a little over 5 minutes to go in the ball game, and gave up the 13-3 run that allowed Ohio State to tie them and take it into overtime. So what am I saying here? I'm telling you this. They did find a way to grind out a victory against Ohio State, but I think they're at a crossroads here at this point in the Big Ten season, because they're 5-3 right now, and that still looks impressive. They're, I think, tied for 5th place in the conference standings at this point. But I think these two games this week at Northwestern, a team that is playing their guts out, even though they lost again yesterday in an overtime game, and they played 4 overtimes, incidentally, this year, and they've won 3 of those. But they're going to play a Northwestern team that will fight and bite and do everything that they can to win the ball game, because they're not the most talented team by any stretch in the league, but they play as hard as anybody in the conference, losing yesterday to Michigan at Michigan in overtime. And Michigan's a really good ball club this year. So this is going to be a test in that regard, and then they come home to a Maryland team that has struggled on the road this year, but they are a good basketball team, and they've got talent. And I think these two games this week will tell us a lot more about this Indiana basketball team, because there's a chance they could win them both, and there's a chance they could lose them both.
Well, here's the thing, Don, and I think you spoke a little bit about this last week, but here's my thoughts on the state of college basketball, is that I remember the day, and it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it probably was, because I'm always reminded I'm older than I think I am. But I remember the day when schools chose you. As an athlete, it was such a privilege for Indiana to give you that invite to come be part of the Hoosiers, because Indiana represented the best of basketball, fundamental, hardworking, smart basketball players with skill. Now it seems around college basketball that instead of the school choosing the player and the player feeling privileged to get that opportunity, it's now all about the player feeling like they're giving the university the privilege of them coming there. Have you noticed that swing? And I don't know if there's a question here. It's more a statement that I want your reaction to.
Oh, I think it's a correct statement. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, my problem with this whole transfer portal and NIL stuff has been the same since it began, and that's that there's no longer any pride involved. There's no longer any loyalty involved. It has transcended college basketball into professional sports. And right now, there is nothing amateur about it because it's all about players wanting to get the best amount of money or the most amount of money that they can get from whatever school they plan to attend. And I'm not saying it's like that for every kid, but I would guarantee you that it's like that for at least 85 to 90% of them.
And it used to be that way for players, but it's still that way for students. I mean, you think about it, you go through the application process, you choose the schools you're interested in, and you just wait to see if that school will extend the invitation to come there academically to be able to study. And now it's kind of like, it seems like the empowerment's in the players. And I don't know if that changes the way the fans view the team or the passion the fans and student body has toward a university, and they're just disappointed to see that kind of effort from the guys that are supposedly representing their student body, their school. And that was what it was about against Illinois. Now, Ohio State, it's interesting, Don. You've got Luke Goody, who made a lot of social media news, and I know that's not where you hang out on your free time, but he had some comments that were after the game, and, of course, it got quite the buzz on social media. Was this a bit of a redemption game or a statement game? I'm not exactly sure what you call it, but Luke Goody was pretty darn good against Ohio State.
Well, he was terrific against Ohio State. He had a career game. He had 23 points. He knocked in 4 of his 7 3-point shots in this contest. The 23 is a career high for him at both Indiana and Illinois. His best was 18 at Illinois ever in a single ball game, and he had 18 once here at Indiana, which matched that single best performance as a player. At the college level. And he had 23 in the game against Ohio State, played really well. I think Luke is one of those guys that I think he's a leader on the floor. He got the start again. He's been starting ever since Malik Renew went down with the injury. I think that's 6 games worth now. And he's been playing better. He hasn't played superstar status until this game against Ohio State. But he is one of the best leaders on this basketball team. And I'm saying that because Trey Galloway, who I think is a guy that plays with, as an example guy, he's not a real verbal guy. I think he and Leal have always been credited with being the leaders on this Indiana basketball team over in the last couple of years now because they've been there the longest. But I think Goody is at least a vocal leader that Indiana really needs at this point. And I think, I don't know what he said in his social media post because I am not on any social media site, never have been, never will be. But I just believe that they need that kind of leadership at this point. Now, will that continue? I don't know. But I will say this, Brett, and I said this a couple of other times here in the last couple of days. I think this week is a crossroads for this Indiana basketball team. I don't think that they have played nearly close enough to their ability and from a talent level perspective at any point this year that we've seen. I just don't think they have. They haven't beaten a really good basketball team yet. And I think that they played probably their best game of the year against Penn State and Philadelphia. I don't know that I didn't see the 3 games in the Bahamas because I didn't go, but I know 2 of them were absolute busts in regard to how they played so far this season against Louisville and Gonzaga. And obviously, every other good team that they've played this year, they have not been able to win a ball game. And normally, they played poorly against those really good teams. And Iowa's not a great team by any stretch. Look what they've done since they played Indiana and beat them by 25. They haven't won yet since then. So we're looking at a basketball team right now I think is at a crossroads. And if this team is to get better this year, They've got to find a way to win these 2 ball games this week at Northwestern on Wednesday, and that's going to be a challenge because even though Northwestern's only won 2 Big Ten games this year, they have played everybody tooth and nail down to the wire. They've had 4 overtime games. They've won 3 of those. They got beat yesterday by one of the best teams in the league in Michigan, and they got beat in overtime in that contest. They're going to give Indiana an unbelievable test on Wednesday night on the road. And if Indiana can win that ball game, maybe that buoys them to two really important wins, and then they'll go into the Maryland game on Sunday and hopefully be able to handle that situation because Maryland's not a bad team. They've got 2 of the best bigs in the league already in Reese and Queen. So it's going to be, I think this is a crossroads week for this Indiana basketball team. A couple of wins may change everything. A couple of losses may change it the other way.
What's going on with Mackenzie and Baco?
If I could answer that question, I would be a millionaire. He is 0 for 15 from the three-point line, 4 of 29 in his last 4 ball games shooting the basketball. He has disappeared almost at times. He scored 6, 4, 6, and 0 in the last 4 ball games. I don't know what's going on with Mbako. All I can tell you is at this point that he's not producing in any way, shape, or form what was expected of him throughout this season.
Don, I got to ask you because you had a chance firsthand to see both Notre Dame and Ohio State tonight's national championship. So with your expertise and wise vision, what do you expect tonight?
You're complimenting me way too much there. But here's what I will tell you. And I saw this yesterday on an interview on the Big Ten Network with Urban Meyer, who said, and I thought this was an incredible statement, he thinks Notre Dame is a really good football team. But he said, I'm telling you, I think Ohio State has the best talent of any team in the country and maybe the best talent of any team that he has ever been a part of, in the sense that he believes that every player, offensively and defensively, that is eligible to go to the NFL will play in the NFL in their future.
Wow.
That is saying something I had never heard a coach say before. And Urban Meyer, whether you like him or hate him, knows what he's talking about. And I think it'll be Ohio State who'll win the game.
Actually, a lot of similar things were being said about Michigan last year, and we know how it ended up for Michigan. So we'll see what happens, Don. Always a pleasure chatting with you. And, of course, we've got Indiana basketball on our sister station, WOWO 92.3 FM, and that is Wednesday night against Brooks Barnheiser and Company, a Hoosier out of the West Lafayette area. Brooks Barnheiser and Northwestern next up for the Hoosiers. Appreciate it, Don. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, Brett.
Yep, that is Don Fischer joining us here on the Sports Rush. And, of course, our visits with Don, our 15 Minutes with Fish, always presented by Hoopy Insurance Services. Trust an agent who can deal with multiple companies to find a policy that's just right for you. That's Hoopy Insurance Services, H-U-P-E. You can look them up online or give them a call at Hoopy Insurance Services. We got to take a time out, keep this show rolling on a Monday. It is the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. We're back here on the Sports Rush, your daily local sports fix 4 to 6. Brett Rump, Adam Lundy, and we've got you connected, as always, on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line 260-447-8500. Coming up tomorrow night, we've got the Mastodons Coaches Show. Should be a fun edition, as both the men and the women have been on a roll of late. The men have won 4 in a row. The women, what is it, 11 or 12? I've lost count. I know they're undefeated at the top of the Horizon League standings.
It's 11 as of now.
I think it's 11 overall, but 9-0 in Horizon League play. They have been terrific. Lauren Ross, this week's Horizon League Player of the Week. And how about it, for the first time ever, Jalen Jackson finally has his Horizon League Player of the Week award. I did a little campaigning for Jalen over the weekend. I don't know if you happen to catch that, Adam, but over the weekend I put a post out, and I tagged the Horizon League in my post. I wanted to make sure they saw it, saying that how could a guy who's been named the mid-major National Player of the Year at the midway point, how could he not have a single Player of the Week honor in his own conference. And it's time. 30 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals. I said, it is time to get this guy his fair due. And so Jalen Jackson is this week's Horizon League Player of the Week on the men's side. And it makes it 2 in a row for the Mastodons because Rashid Bello won the honor a week ago. So let's go Dons.
Go Dons. Great stuff on the hardwood.
By the way, don't want to forget, it is really cool, Adam, that Purdue Fort Wayne has taken on my slogan.
They did. They've adopted your moniker.
They've taken it. Support the fort.
Yes,
that is
sir.
what it's all about on January 30th at the Coliseum, Thursday night, 9 o'clock tip, as the Mastodons take on the Cleveland State Vikings in what at this point, I mean, if this game was being played tonight, it would be for first place in the Horizon League. So that's some big stakes because right now Cleveland State has 1-game lead over the Mastodons. They're all alone in first and second place. And so it's a huge game, and ESPNU will be here to televise it nationally, and we want to show America what kind of basketball fans and sports fans we have in this city. Of course, every year there's awards that go out for the teams that are the best minor league organizations or cities, and best sports fans, best sports towns, etc. And I think this is our chance to kind of show America what it's all about with Mastodons basketball. And quite honestly, the attendance has not been what it should be for the quality of the product that's being put on the floor. It's embarrassing in some ways. I mean, yeah, I know mid-major basketball, if you look at the Horizon League, the Mastodons are probably in the upper half of home attendance. But still, they've got an opportunity to grow even further, and the team itself has consistently been right near the top of the league. And so this is your chance with a battle that might be a first-place showdown, a battle that's going to be televised nationally. It's your chance to support the fort. And here's the other kicker. All kids 12th grade and under can get in absolutely free.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great chance for all the younger fans to get out there and not
High
have
school,
to pay.
middle school, you've got school the next day. I don't care. I don't.
You don't care at all? No, Scoop?
Don't care.
More important.
Time to come support the fort. It doesn't. I mean, school happens what, every day?
Yeah,
Support
most days,
the fort happens what, once every couple of years? You get a chance to come out and cheer for the Dons and be on national television. So let's go. It is coming up next week on Thursday. And, of course, tickets can be had by going to the Coliseum ticket office or Ticketmaster. Now, if you want those free tickets, you got to go directly to the Coliseum ticket office to make your purchase. Conference championships coming up this weekend. Washington, Philly. The Beltway something. I don't know. Classic. It can't be a classic, is it? Beltway Bowl?
I don't know what you call it, honestly. I'll take any suggestions you've got.
Washington, Philly, they're both on I-95. They're not that far apart. What is it, hour and a half, or a couple hours maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it's
because you go from Philly, you go through Wilmington, Delaware, then you go to Baltimore, then you go to Washington, D.C. So it might be 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. But it's a short trip, as it's two NFC East teams that will make it. One of them will make it into the Super Bowl because they'll play each other. And then you've got Buffalo, Kansas City. Is this the marquee battle in the AFC? Is this, I mean, Baltimore's right there. I think more people love the aerial attack of Buffalo versus Kansas City and the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes battle.
Yeah, I think people want that matchup, and they wanted to see that matchup, and they got it. So
by the way, I don't know, betting man. Yeah. I did not have any money on this, so I didn't have anything at stake. But what a move by Kansas City to take an intentional safety in a game that has a 9.5-point line, and you're leading by 11, and you give up 2 points.
Surely not helping any conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I know.
There, but
they could start the conspiracy theories. I don't think it had anything to do with it. I think Andy Reid was just thinking strategy.
Yeah.
But it was a huge change in money because all of a sudden it went from Kansas City covering the 9.5-point spread to it being Texans getting the plus 9.5 in a 9-point game. Final score is 24-13. So That was huge to give up a free safety in the final minute of the game.
Definitely. I'm just doing a little bit of reading about this Commanders-Eagles rivalry that supposedly exists. There's a whole Wikipedia article about it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Apparently the rivalry is most historically notable from the body bag game where the...
Back final time here on the Sports Rush, your daily local sports picks 4 to 6. What a big day. It's going to be a bigger night because Ohio State and Notre Dame set to kick off coming up just after 7:30. We've got Fighting Irish preview with Phil Houck coming up next. And then at 6:30, we turn it over to the Notre Dame Broadcasting Network, Tony Simeone and company with Notre Dame, Ohio State. Thanks to the judge, Phil Houck, for joining us in hour number 1. And as always, big thanks to Don Fischer, voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, for joining us in our second hour. We got to bail. We got to get our popcorn ready, our beverages cold, and ready to watch some national championship football tonight. Enjoy your Monday night. Hope to have you right back here tomorrow. John Nolan will be in for me. Had to have somebody come in willing to talk about Notre Dame and Ohio State because I'll be traveling and will not be available. But that is it for the Monday edition of the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.